blessings to you. My name is Jere B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. Welcome to another edition of the EntreMusician. Today is going to be a really incredibly unusual but great interview. It's unusual for me because today is the day that I interview my youngest daughter, Ayana Symone. Now, I definitely have to brag on all of my daughters, all three of my daughters, my eldest, Dr. Tijay Beulah, my middle daughter, I call her my second chance child, Nia Joy, who is pursuing her master's degree, and my youngest, who is a die-hard creative like her dad. We're going to talk about some of the projects that she's involved in, and I'll tell you why it's unusual for me in just a moment. Before we do that, as you know, we always honor the people at Vocal. Vocal is the only beverage on the planet which soothes, refreshes, and restores your voice. If you talk all day, like I sometimes do, or sing all night, you got to get yourself some Vocal. Go to drinkvocal.com to learn more. Vocal sponsors all of our videos, and we honor them and thank them for it. Now, here's the thing. At the EntreMusician.com, we generally interview musicians, but what we're going to be doing, and what I think Ayana really exemplifies, is creatives of all calibers deserve a platform at the EntreMusician, particularly Ayana, because Ayana just published last year. I shouldn't say just published, but last year she published her first novel, and it's called How I Fell in Love with Myself. Excellent novel, which is not only available on Amazon and Amazon.com, but also certain Barnes and Noble locations. And most recently, we found out, at least in our area in Northeast Ohio, it is now available in the public library. So that is really on point. Ayana also is killing it with her merch, with her website, and we're going to talk about all of these things, but I got to tell you why it's unusual. It's unusual because some of the stuff I know about her instinctively, just in being her dad and watching her walk through the process, and then there are some things that I don't know. So I'm kind of nervous about what I should ask and should not ask, because, you know, I don't want her to feel nervous. I want her to be transparent and truthful, you know, in talking about her process and some of the things that have led her to be the young woman that she is. So I don't want her to be nervous, but here's the thing. I don't want you to feel that any of this is contrived, because I too, as a fellow EntreMusician, I want to be transparent and truthful. So right off the bat, there are no games or nothing up our sleeves or anything. You can feel natural to say, hey, Dad, I feel really good sharing this information, or Dad, that's too much information, don't ask me that question, move on. Okay, is that all right?
Sure.
So first of all, I'm sorry about the long introduction.
Your
dad can be a little long-winded, but thanks for agreeing to come on and doing this. So tell a little bit about yourself that cannot be told from a dad's point of view. Okay?
Okay. So, I'm Ayana. I'm 19 years old. And as he said, I published my first novel last year in 2018. I'm currently working on my second one. I'm hoping that will come out soon. I don't know a date yet, but I'm excited about that project. Honestly, I just have a few projects coming up that I only let my members and subscribers know first over on my website.
So the members of the EntreMusician can't know these things.
Well, when they come out, you'll see. You'll
Okay.
see everything. But I usually let members and subscribers know what's coming first. So I'm working on a few things, things that I have worked on already. There's some merchandise available for the book that's available on my website. I was working on that basically all summer long, and it came out September 1st. So there's some things that I have been working on that came out, and then other things that I still have to get out. But members and subscribers know. So.
Interestingly, well, let's dive in first of all to the book, How I Fell in Love with Myself. Now, actually, I think I can share this with those who are watching, that this was not the first book that you wrote, but it's the first book you published.
Yeah.
That's right?
That's
so with respect to How I Fell in Love with Myself, what drew you to say, I've got 2 drafts sitting in front of me, and this one has juice? Why?
So the first book I wrote when I was 12, and so I was still growing as a writer during that time. But I think the topic I wrote for the first book was really important. So really the second book, How I Fell in Love with Myself, it is, it covers the same topics as the last book, but because I grew as a writer and I had a deeper understanding of what I wanted to say, like the message I wanted to get out, I read this draft and I liked it way better because I knew that there was deeper layers of truth that I just couldn't get out in the first book.
So tell us a little bit about the story. I mean, I know the story, but, give us a synopsis.
So this story, How I Fell in Love with Myself, is about a girl named Christia, and she's 17 years old, and she doesn't really know who she is without the validation of others, but she goes through this journey, and through that journey and through her faith, she's able to find out who she really is, and she's able to not just discover who she is, but fall in love with that person. So.
All right. So, here's an obvious question, but is there any of the author in the character Christia, or is she totally fictional?
There's a lot of me in her. I think all of the characters in the book, there's like little pieces of me.
Oh, wow.
Just because like a lot of what they went through, I've experienced some, not to the same extent as I wrote in the book, but I was able to have some grounding as to what that character may be feeling in those situations. And then on top of that, it's a lot of people who I've met, like I'm able to see what they're going through, or maybe they'll share something with me, and it's like I want to get it out, but I'm a writer first, like I don't really communicate by talking, so when I want to get a message out to someone, I write. So a lot of the people who I met during that time, I wanted to make a character out of it and put their story in the book so that I can get the message out through writing.
So you get a lot of heady conversations, and you cover a lot of content, questions about self-love, homosexuality, religion versus Christianity, betrayal between friends, different relationships that go awry and whatnot. So you are 14 when you begin this journey?
Yeah.
So were you seeing this in culture, you were seeing this in school, you were seeing this around you?
Oh, yeah.
And so as your dad is, you are a woman of faith, I'm a man of faith, and how did you balance what you were learning at home, what you were trained in at home, what you were participating in church, with going to school Monday through Friday and dealing with what culture was thrown at you? I mean, a lot of this, and again, I'm a little biased because I've read it already, but how did you navigate those topics and put it in a way where people would want to absorb what you've read without feeling put off by it?
So the interesting thing about growing up in a Christian home and in a Christian church is that over time you start to, like, you hear the message and you become a bit like desensitized to it to the point where it doesn't really hold. And so the significant thing about me being 14 writing this book is because it was right before I turned 14. It was when I made the personal decision, like, whether or not, like, my parents believe this or whether or not my pastors believe this, like, this is something that I'm going to believe. Because I often would, like, quote certain scripture just because I knew the saying, but it became personal for me. And so with that, I was very excited about my walk with Christ because I felt really in my heart like this is for me. Like I started to understand it in a deeper way. And so with that, I had a lot of questions as I was moving forward. And I realized that going to school, or just going different places, going like even on social media, seeing the conversations that were happening, and me just now coming to terms with my faith, and I'm realizing just like the beauty of the gospel and the beauty of Christ, and I didn't really see that in my high school or on social media, and so I really had a heart of just getting the truth out in the way that Jesus always intended. Like, he was full of grace and full of truth. And so being that I'm always a writer first, that I'm really not the person who just comes up and like talks to people, and knowing that my passion for writing was growing, especially at age 14, I just wanted all of my curiosity and this newfound passion for my relationship with Christ. I wanted all of that to be in what I do best, which is writing. And so a lot of the questions that I had and the questions I knew other people had, I wanted to look for the answer so that I can get the answer and so that they can get the answer, which then came all of those interesting topics in the book.
So how long did it take you to, you're 19 now.
Yes.
So you started this journey at 14. How long did it take you to complete the writing of it? I mean, I know you had to go through the editing and whatnot.
So I started writing it, I would never forget, October 2014, and I finished March 2015. I think it was March 27th. March 27th, yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I invited you to come on to the EntreMusician, because I think it's the same level of creativity, energy, dynamic, focus, and discipline that it takes to compose a song, record a song, produce a song, get it mastered, and get it through. It's the same energy. With this being your first journey into that, were you what was the compulsion factor? Were you driven, or was it just was it drudgery? Was it something you had to put down and come back to, or was it just like, yo, I'm in here? I'm an old man, so I know what it takes for me, but in your teens in doing this, tell me about that.
There were a few setbacks because I did write the first book, and so in my mind I'm thinking like this is just going to be another project that I kind of put to the side, like just kind of a fun thing, but going deeper and having all of these questions and knowing that other people had questions and seeing what was happening in the world, I'm like, I'm kind of stubborn, so I'm like, I have to finish this project. And so there was a lot of like writing it and then not looking at it for weeks because I wasn't really inspired, or it did kind of feel like a chore almost, and that's when I had to take a step back because I didn't want it to be like this job that I had. Like, I just wanted it to flow.
Understood.
And some days like I would be really inspired and I would write like 5 chapters like in one sitting, and other days it's like I'd be really jealous of those days because it's like I can't, like, I'm not getting anything.
Understood.
So like I had that passion because I wanted to get the truth out.
Sure.
Like I wanted to put all of my questions and everyone's questions in writing. But I think for every creative person, it's like it's not always I'm gonna finish the book in like one day, like that crazy driven passion.
But you in many ways you can start like that, like, oh, this is the juice right here, and I'm gonna and then you get that, I don't want to call it writer's block, so to speak, but you hit that brick wall and you go, nothing's happening. So with respect to the editing process, I know you had some great editor to work with you. What do you think, and this is kind of giving advice a little bit, if there are other budding authors out there, or maybe you're in the middle of your particular project, what did you think the benefit was of having someone else eye your baby? You have to be very vulnerable to say, okay, here's my work. We do the same thing with recording engineers, with arrangers, with mastering engineers, to say, okay, and they can look at it. They're going to be completely objective. It's not their heart that they're putting on the table. How did you feel during that process?
So I usually don't let people read my writings, and you would know that. Like when I was writing it, and you would like come by the computer, I would like minimize it because I didn't want you to see like what I was doing. But I don't know, like I guess it goes back to that passion. Like, I knew that it had to be edited, and I don't really consider myself an editor. Like, I can take out a few commas here and there, but looking at it with a fresh perspective, like, I needed that in order to get the book done. So it was nerve-wracking, but, like, I trusted my editor, so it wasn't that, like... I wasn't losing sleep over it.
I think we should just shout her name out. You know,
Yes.
I think we should do that. Because, you know, but here's the thing: she's not for hire. Let's put it like that. So I was kind of reluctant to use your name, but Donna Biscardi. And Dr. Gus Biscardi. Okay, so he was involved with that. And I know he did the cover. Dr. Biscardi did the cover, but he was involved with the editing process. Here's the one thing about the Biscardis, just to give them...
They're brilliant.
Yeah, their juice, because in many ways, you know, with sound doctrine and with a lot of musical pursuits, Donna has been, I call her my boss. I mean, she's been like on top of making sure that contracts were the way they should be and whatnot. So she's brilliant. We love you, Donna. I was a little reluctant because I didn't want people to try to Google her and say, okay, I need you to edit my book, you know. But one of the things I want to talk about is your approach with marketing. And you know, the one thing that you'll notice is the I, the love, myself, and then Christia's lipstick, it being in red. And those were things that you were very intentional about from the beginning. And so moving into building your website, which is on the bottom of the screen, AyanaSymone.com, I noticed that you have been very intentional about building community. So tell me your approach, or tell us your approach on just building community as you have just one project. Because some people would say, hey, you just got one book. But what are your thought processes in how to build this community, knowing who your audience is and how you are targeting them? Because your father is watching you, and I'm learning even in my projects. It's like, okay, Jan, that's pretty cool the way you're doing that. Can you share a little bit of that?
So originally, like, whenever I would write, the thing is that I had a writing blog before all of this in 2014 when I started writing it. A writing blog. And I really just used it for myself, like, just as a place to just, like, I'm feeling this way, I'm gonna write about it and then post it, like, whatever. But that writing blog actually picked up, and I started to attract a lot of readers. And I will say I'm guilty of writing for other people then, and not necessarily writing for myself.
So what do you mean by that?
Clarify usually when I would write, it would be for me, but if I started to write for people, it would be more about the numbers and, like, how many likes I got, how many people saw it.
I understand.
And so that's when it got a bit like a chore, like, as I said before. And so the thing about it, though, is that I'm really realizing that the best way to build a community is just be myself. And I have to remind myself that all the time. Like, I have every single right in the world to be myself. And so whether or not I get the crowd or just a few people who get where I'm coming from, that's what really matters to me. Because then, like, if I become overwhelmed by numbers and driven by how many people view it, then it's just not me anymore, and it's not a solid community.
That's good.
So on my website, I was very intentional about, like, I'm gonna be me, you can be yourself too, and that's really where the truth comes. Like, if we're all just kind of playing pretend, and, like, what's the point? It's just another thing out there. It doesn't have any meaning.
That's really good. The one thing too that I noticed about let me tell you my perspective. The one thing that I noticed was I thought your work would be for 14 to 17-year-old young ladies. The one thing that really tripped me out was the broad spectrum of reviews that you received, or people emailing you who were grandfathers, who were grandmothers, who were aunts and uncles and, you know, fathers going, oh yeah, I bought this for my daughter, but I ended up leafing through it and I read the whole thing. So to me, it kind of skewered your demographic. How do you maintain focus on this is my core audience, when you have these fringes of others who are kind of tuning in to what you have to say?
I mean, the same thing, just being myself. Because I was surprised too, like hearing the different feedback, and I was like, whoa, like I didn't expect for someone outside of my audience to read the book.
Sure.
And so I won't lie, like at first I was very intimidated by that, because then I got back to, okay, maybe I need to write stuff for grandmothers now, maybe. Like going into that mindset, which is kind of, was really bad for me, because then I can like just get into performance mode. And so again, I just have to remind myself, like, just be yourself, and that's what attracts people, even like outside of your audience.
And that's really good. So stick to your target. No matter, I mean, you can pick up extra, and that's a bonus, but stick to your target, write to your target. That's really very good. With respect to the merch, you started talking about merchandise. What do you have available? And I'm sure that's available on your website. But what did you tie into the book?
So for those who read the book, would know that Christia's love for coffee was a bit more significant than she thought. Because you'll read the book and see that at first she was very reluctant to, for reasons that involved her past, and it was kind of a trigger for her, but it turned into something that she realized, like, I love coffee, and that was just a part of her personality, but she was kind of holding back because she felt as if she couldn't change or she couldn't do anything new. And so I created this mug for her. I call it Christia's mug. That's the character, Christia. And it, on the mug, it has a quote from the book, which is really the biggest lesson that she learns through all of this, which is the lesson that she didn't expect to learn. That quote is, to love yourself is to be selfless, because she always felt that to love yourself, you have to be all about you. You have to be this selfish person, when not giving any spoilers or anything like that. But she came to realize that self-love is really a selfless act. And again, not without giving anything away, she sees that in what people did for her, and what she tried to do for others. She comes to this theme, or this lesson of to love yourself is to be selfless. And so that's what's on the mug. It's a direct sister copy, I guess, of the book.
So would there be any other items that come about?
For the next book.
Oh, for the next book.
Yeah, I think the mug would suffice. I'm always I'm the type of person who gets ideas at like 3 a.m. Sure. So I may come up with something, but for now it's just the mug, and then working on book number 2.
So I'm going to ask you another question, and then so we know this is a family conversation. So when you were a senior in high school, you were going to our local college here, and we thought that you would follow your sisters and go to college, because Jere, your oldest, has bragging like just a little bit.
Degrees.
Right, she has 2 masters and she has her PhD, and then of course with Nia getting her master's, and we thought that was the that route that you were taking. And granted, you enrolled, you did your freshman year in college, and then you decided, this is not for me. Okay, I'm a writer. So I get it. College is not for everybody. But what was the driving point within your spirit where you said, this is not for me? I mean, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because these were mom and dad conversations with Dahlia.
So all throughout high school, you remember me saying, like, I never really had a desire to go to college. Like, I always said that.
But granted, she has exceptional grades. I mean, your grades were exceptional. This is not a deficiency in any way.
Right, yeah. Like, I always said, like, I'm going to do high school. Like, I have to do high school, and then that's it. Like, I'm not going to college. And so senior year was a bit confusing for me. Like, I was just going through a lot, and I really wanted to take writing classes my senior year, and so going to that local university was the only way I could just take writing classes. And so that's what I did. And a lot of people assumed, like, okay, now she's going to go to college. And even I thought that, because I didn't really know, like, it was senior year. Like, I had to decide. I couldn't, you know, do the yes or no anymore. And so I did my, you know, I went to college officially, my freshman year of college. And I just remember I had my desktop computer here and then my laptop on my bed, and I was working on 2 different projects that meant nothing for writing or for like website building or anything like that. And I just remember thinking, I could definitely be writing like the 2nd book right now, or I could be putting a blog up, or maybe I can start like my vlogs, because I had that in mind for a long time. And so I'm like, I could be doing so much, and I'm not getting it done because I have to study for Spanish, or I have to do this weather exam or something that just like had nothing to do with writing. So I remember thinking to myself, like, that's it. Like, I can't, it's just, this is not for me. And so being that I made that decision, I'm supposed to be a sophomore now in college, and I can't imagine being in college right now. Like, I have so much going on that I'm like, I literally, it's taking up all my time, but I love it. Like, it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I have no regrets about that decision.
And I mean, I can see it. Your mom can see it. I mean, this is what you were meant to do, and you're doing it. You're not just like saying, well, I'm not going to college, and then you're not doing anything. I mean, you're really pursuing it. So we're
and
proud.
it's not just like I'm not receiving education. Like, I'm taking writing classes now. Correct. Like, things that I really enjoy. Yeah. And I'm not, you know, wasting time or money doing this. Yeah. It's just, I'm hitting home with writing.
I had to ask, though. I had to ask a little bit of family in there. But is there anything that you thought when I said, hey, I would like to interview you, you thought I should ask you, or that you wanted to get out and talk about, and I didn't ask? What is that? What do you think should be, you know, that you want people who view the EntreMusician to know?
I was probably, if I didn't really have any questions that I wanted you to ask, but if I did, it would probably be about college. But
so we took care of that one, right? Okay, well, that's cool. Well, I'm grateful that, you know, this wasn't as nerve-wracking as you thought it would be, being interviewed by your dad. No. You know, that's cool. I'm doing pretty good, I guess. But yeah, I did want to feature Ayana, and I am going to, as we move into the next year here, the coming year, we'll be interviewing people who are not just musicians, but creatives of all types, because, again, we see that thread of creativity and energy and focus and discipline that we all must utilize in order to get our work done. So I want to thank you, not just as my daughter for coming on, but as this brilliant author that you are. I can't wait to, I mean, I know a little bit about the next novel, but I can't wait to read it and see what happens. And so, you know, thank you for being a great entree creative. And I just bless you. I bless you as my daughter. I bless you as an author. And thank you for tuning in to the EntreMusician. Go to AyanaSymone.com. She does have a blog. She does have a vlog. Yep. You can sign on and subscribe to her channel. Yep. And a lot of great things are coming up. So I'm Jere B. Thanks for tuning in. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you.